Hi, everyone. This is Shafer. I'm a mom, a physician, a life and wellness coach, musician, writer, publisher, producer, and a lover of life, food, and growth. I am sharing my stories with you and sharing the stories of other women who have gone through challenges and things that have really made them take a step back and re-examine their lives and really dive into finding their truths and living in authenticity. And all of that might sound unattainable or like a bunch of big words, but the simplicity of it all is truly that when you submit yourself to that quest to come back to yourself, to no longer submit yourself to everyone and everything else, but to really come back to yourself, honor yourself, explore yourself, honor your beliefs, honor your values, you will just be so floored by how you can show up in the world and be the best person you can be, the best friend, lover, wife, physician, writer, mother, just the very best person that you always wanted to be, but you didn't think you were enough to be. You are enough. But many of us aren't showing up as us. We are not showing up as us. We're showing up as some version of some person that we never even wanted to be. And yet every day we're putting on those roles and stepping out into the world and fighting these internal battles that no one will ever know of. But they're coloring our interactions, because when we're not showing up as our true selves, we're not showing up as our best selves. That's for sure. So as a part of my journey and my pledge to share my experiences with others in hopes that it will act as a buoy, as a life vest for you if you're in a moment where you're facing something really, really challenging and you need that hand, you need that shared story, you need that virtual hug, you need to just feel not alone. I really want to share my experience because I felt so alone so many times, and that loneliness really led to further self-abandonment and to making decisions that were so far from in my best interest. And when you do that, you are just making it hard for yourself to show up not only for you, but for the people that you really, truly love and who really love you. Because you're not being you. You are forsaking yourself. And at the end of this life, the person you'll be with the most, the person who you need to love and cherish and protect to be able to be your best self is truly yourself. You know, we go see our doctor once a year or more, depending upon our age and our circumstances. They ask us all these really important questions about self-care, about exercise and diet, and if we're monitoring important parts of our health, which depending upon our age, maybe are we, getting vaccines that we need for our studies? We're just starting college and we need all of these vaccines and everything to make sure we're safe. Or, now we're in the middle of our life or the final quarter of our life potentially. And we need to think about things like our blood pressure, and we need to look at our sleep differently and all sorts of things. And we are asked all of those questions, but I think for many of us, we even show up at that appointment, myself included, as a physician, having not actually contemplated on what my answers will be, having not consciously inspected my health over the last year. It's like I got somehow teleported. This year passed by, and now I'm here in this robe in this room again, looking at my doctor again. And she's asking me the same questions she asks every year. And even as a physician myself, I'm thinking, oops, I forgot to do my homework. I forgot to think about myself. I forgot to care about myself. I forgot to invest in myself. And so I think it's really important. And even beyond the physical, I can tell you the challenges that I have been through in the past few years and before that, but really a spotlight has been put on those parts of my life in the last few years. Only a few times when I was speaking to a really trauma-informed person during that period of time, did someone look at me with compassion in their face? And instead of giving me more judgment, which I had heaps of my own to manage, and I really didn't need any extraneous judgment, they looked at me with such compassion and asked me, "What's your support system? How are you doing? What are you doing to support and nourish yourself? Because this is really hard. And you can't do this. You're not going to survive this without help. So what do you have? Who's your support?" And I can tell you, having been of the mindset, thanks to external forces really training me to adapt that mindset of not enough, of not having value, of not having worth, of not mattering, I really struggled the first year and a half in this process when someone would look at me with compassion in their face and say something, extend a loving sentence, a loving look towards me. And I, in those situations, would often just start crying because this person was offering me kindness. And I think in a sense, I felt maybe I didn't deserve that. When, of course, we all deserve kindness. But I had really drunk the Kool-Aid deep in my soul about who I was and what I deserved, which was nothing. I deserved just to be a servant and a professional reflector of whatever this individual and their support characters wanted me to be. And I had to reflect because I was embarrassed. I would be embarrassed when I would lose my cool because I've always valued being calm and poised and collected. So when you're in these circumstances with, a therapist or someone at church who says, Jesus loves you, when you're in this situation, or your doctor at your checkup says, how are you? Are you taking care of yourself? And you just break down. It's embarrassing. And you don't even know why it's embarrassing. You failed again. You failed again because you started this journey and you made choices that went against that core belief of not enoughness and of undeserving and unworthiness. You've made some choices now for the first time in a long time that reflect you're beginning to recognize that you as a human deserve to have a choice. You deserve to have freedom. You deserve to have autonomy and at least a chance to pursue happiness and not just be an instrument for someone and to be abused by someone. So for me, in those situations where I felt ashamed of my lack of poise, I then felt ashamed at my lack of grace. And then I really had to come to a place that was very important to me, that I'm not a person who does shame. I don't do shame, including with myself, because I didn't ever want to do shame with someone else, with my children, with my friends, if they or my patients, friends, family approached me with information that maybe someone else would react to in a way that could be further triggering or shameful to them, shaming. I always felt it was really important to not be that person. But I was that person for me. I recognize that that was a huge part because that was what was modeled to me by, some core people, making sure I was aware that nothing I did was ever good enough. And 99 times out of 100, I'd learned to just go limp, not argue. I'm sorry. I'll do better. I'm sorry. But I remember one particular evening, really long day, working really hard, and he'd launched into another one of these long litanies of my inadequacies once it was probably 10 o'clock at night and I'd finally stopped moving after being up since 5 a.m. And I remember just having tears in my eyes and begging him, please understand that I am trying so hard to do my best. I know I'm not perfect. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I am trying so hard to do a good job for you. And when I'm made to feel like nothing I could ever do would ever be enough, and that I am implicitly bad and not enough, that it just makes it so hard. And I'm working so hard for us. And I remember, like in the other rare occasions when I would stick my neck out to talk back in a situation like this, he didn't defend himself. He just didn't speak to me and just walked away. Because again, really, I was right. It didn't matter what I said. It didn't matter what I did. I just wasn't good enough, and he just wanted me to know that. So that was just so damaging for me. And when your primary adult relationship is just reinforcing that nothing that you ever do is enough, and then you go out to work into a really challenging field where, you're also going to have challenges, mistakes will be made, whether or not they're yours, or, things ran slow in clinic because we're down a person, or the neurologist that was supposed to cover call for the hospital is not going to be here for one reason or another, so I need you to cover both your outpatients and your inpatients, even though you were double booked or triple booked, that sort of thing. And being resilient in a circumstance where you know that you're just already being set up to not succeed, because, how can anyone be happy under those circumstances? Your patients, your staff, the hospital staff, you're set up for failure. So when you already at home in the relationship that should be the one that gives you your life vest, your buoyancy when you're out in the world and having challenges, instead it's like an anchor holding you down. And so for me, I had to let go of those beliefs that were consistently reinforced and beaten into me. I had to let go of those and recognize them as false before I could even begin to fathom changing my circumstances. Because until I no longer believed what I'd been told, why would I change anything? I deserve it. This is what I deserve, and I should be grateful. So I appreciate that now. I think there is a better space in the world for women to start sharing these stories. I think, there's so many really strong women out there who are being vulnerable and talking about traumatic experiences in their life and normalizing that. And I am so incredibly grateful for those voices. And because I'm a doctor, because I have this voice and I just found it after so many years, I just feel really compelled to share my stories. This was just one little brief interaction we had that really summarized how our entire dynamic was. But we all have so many stories of what shaped us, and all of these little stories are like bricks that were going around us and encapsulating us in a place we were never meant to be. Or if we were meant to be there, it was for a time, but it was not meant to be forever. We weren't meant to be entombed by these people who don't care about us. Maybe they were there to teach us a lesson, but they are not our story. We need to learn from those experiences, learn about ourselves, learn how we can respond differently in the future. But that's more than just understanding what happened. It's also about understanding why it happened. Why, when I asked to be treated like a partner and like a human being, and I literally asked, could you please just treat me with the dignity and respect of a human being? And there was no response. And this was a pattern that repeated over and over again of communication of, I don't like where this is going. You're asking for something I'm not going to give, so I'm not going to dignify it with a response because you're getting out of your lane now. So I was showing these tiny, tiny little inklings of just the tiniest little bit of, hey, I'm a human. I deserve something. I deserve more than this. But I didn't understand why I stayed. I didn't understand that for that situation to change, it was I who had to change, not this other person. This other person wasn't going to change, no matter how many times I asked. That wasn't going to happen. And so I had to be the one to change, not to change them, but to change myself. And that process is a long and difficult process. But once you've started it and once you've done some of the initial heavy lifting and you take these atrophied muscles that haven't been used for years or sometimes a lifetime, that basically by the time you were 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you'd been conditioned to not use those skills of speaking up for yourself and of valuing yourself and defending yourself. Once you start the really hard work of initially doing that work, like I lost the 50 pounds of excess weight that was just holding me back. And then I built my muscles. I strengthened my core so I can do so many things, and I can run, I can flee, I can feel secure and safe and strong and healthy. Once you've started that and you get to a certain point, because at first it's easy to give up. Any habit needs to really be reinforced to stick with it. But once you get to a place where, let's say you experience a setback and at least a tiny little bit of you responds in a way that's more healthy. Once you see the fruits of your labor and you see how that has a positive impact on your life, you are not going to want to give that up for anything, because you realize not only for yourself, but for the people you love and cherish, for the service you want to do on this earth, that this healed version of you or healing version of you is who you want to be. And you never want to go back to being that person that wasn't even you. It was who you needed to be to survive a chaotic crisis. But you don't want to live in chaos. You don't want to live in crisis mode. You want to just live your life. And you do deserve to do that. And I'll end with this. The word deserve is a word that I try to insert into my conversations, because for decades, probably my whole life, I have had a visceral reaction to the word deserve. When I get an advertisement in my inbox that misses the spam filter and it says, you deserve this, and it's talking about a trip or a pair of pants, and that whole construct is very silly in general. But when they use those phrases, I have a visceral reaction of disgust to someone telling me I deserve anything. And it's getting better, but I would say, despite the vast efforts and improvement I've seen in my health, my mental well-being and strength and fortitude over the last few years, feeling deserving is still something that I work on. And when I see my children and when they make a mistake and they sometimes fall into this shame spiral, as Brené Brown discusses in her amazing work. And I want to just surround them with the support and assurance of like, hey, I realize you feel really bad right now, and you're having these feelings about yourself, but I want you to know there's nothing you could do that would make you undeserving. There's nothing on this world that would make you unlovable or undeserving or unworthy. Those things are implicit about you, and nothing will change that. And when you see their sweet faces, when they realize that your love for them isn't conditional and that they deserve your love no matter what, that makes you recognize just how important feeling deserving and knowing that you are deserving is. And not deserving of materialistic things or stature or anything of that, but just of respect and love, human dignity, of the level of kindness that we just simply ought to extend to our fellow human beings. And so I just want to leave you with the understanding that I'm still working on that. It's not as big of a struggle as it was 6 months or a year ago, but I'm still working on that. And I really hope that this is helpful to share with you. And I really hope that you'll share things with us too and leave us comments, messages. I hope that if you're struggling with these things, just like so many of us are, that you reach out, that you have a support system, and that if you don't, you really examine your life and make sure that you can find the support that may be there that you're just not recognizing, again, because you might be coming from a perspective of non-deserving. So sometimes we don't even see the things in our life that are there to help us because we don't think we deserve them, so we don't even see them. If you are unsafe, please make decisions that move you towards safety. If you're unsafe and you need to call the police, you call the police. If you are having thoughts of harming yourself, get help. Call the suicide hotline, call a friend, remove yourself from dangerous things, see your doctor, get help with a therapist. You deserve to be here. Your life is precious. And if anyone ever tells you otherwise, you should be as far away from that person as humanly possible because they're not a good influence on you. Anyone giving you that idea is enough to tell you that that's not a safe and healthy person, and you don't need their influence in your life, and you need to work on getting safe. So please stay safe, stay curious about why some of the patterns you have are what they are, why you have certain beliefs towards yourself or feelings, responses, reactions to yourself. And keep showing up, keep exposing yourself to things that can help you get closer to the truth of who you are. Find out what you really believe. Discard those external beliefs that don't serve you, that were never yours to begin with, and they're just holding you down like an anchor instead of letting you live your beautiful life. So again, thank you so much for spending this time with me. I'll be back with more. I look forward to sharing more stories from other women who've gone through their own challenges. And I would so appreciate it if you feel safe and secure, wish to share your stories. Please share your stories and let's all support one another and learn from one another. I look forward to talking to